No, I think they have diminished dramatically, and I think it's going to get even worse as this decade progresses. Back then we still had a lot more economic freedom than we do now. We had a much smaller government. We were still closer to the heyday of capitalism in the latter part of the 19th century, the early 20th century. The Federal Reserve had not been around nearly as long, so it hadn't done nearly as much damage to the underlying structure of the economy. We were a huge industrial productive nation. We had big trade surpluses. We were a large creditor nation, much sounder economy. We had a lot of savings. We're the mirror image of that now. We're the world's biggest debtor nation, record trade deficits. We've got no savings. We have a complete bubble economy based on artificially low interest rates, excess consumption, financed by debt and money printing. And we're about to pay the piper for that. We're seeing now the tip of an inflationary iceberg. There's a lot more beneath the surface. Powell, despite pulling back a little bit, is still pursuing a highly accommodative monetary policy. He is throwing more gasoline on the inflationary fire that the Fed lit. So Americans, I think, are going to be dealing with a dramatically diminished standard of living as this decade unfolds. I think the dollar goes down a lot. The cost of living goes up dramatically. It's not going to be easy, unfortunately, for the U.S. No, it's intractable. In fact, as I said, it's just getting started. 2022 will be worse than 2021, and 2023 will be worse than 2022. This is going to be a highly inflationary decade. The economy was not in good shape before the pandemic. It was in a bubble. That was the problem. We really couldn't survive the economic downturn, so the Fed bailed us out with more money printing. We haven't been innovating our way out of crises. We've been printing our way out. But we've printed our way into an even bigger crisis because now we're paying the piper because this inflation acts as a lag. In fact, I think we're still dealing with the inflation that was created before the pandemic. I mean, wait till we catch up to the even greater inflation that we created after, because inflation is the expansion of the money supply. Prices going up are merely a result of inflation. Now, what happened prior to the pandemic is a lot of the inflation was manifesting itself in financial assets. So we saw real estate prices, stock prices, bond prices going up. Consumer prices didn't go up as much. Now, they went up more than the government admitted because the CPI is a highly rigged index that understates the degree to which prices are rising. I think right now prices are rising at a faster rate than at any year during the 1970s. But instead of, being on the verge of doing something to contain inflation, we're just getting ready to make it worse because we don't have the tools that we had back then, or if we have them, we can't use them because of the level of debt that we have in the economy. And, you're talking about the consumer. The real problem is the producer. You can't consume unless you produce. Our productivity is collapsing, and America is more reliant now than ever before on the productivity of foreign countries because our trade deficits are exploding. Wait until the dollar implodes, because the only thing that's been keeping a lid on inflation has been a relatively strong dollar. Well, I think the dollar is going to roll over and fall dramatically over the next several years, and that's going to cause this inflation problem to be much, much worse because it's going to really push up the price of all of our imports. Well, absolutely, because inflation is a tax on cash. It's your cash being inflated away. You're losing value. But, I want to just make one point about inflation, because this idea that it's the supply chain that's responsible, this is just not true. I mean, sure, when you shut down an economy, it's obvious that you're going to have less supply. You're producing less, you're working less. But what should have happened is demand should have gone down too. But unfortunately, the Fed did not allow a healthy decline in demand to meet up with the decline in supply. The Fed made the mistake of showering the economy with money, the worst monetary policy probably in history. When people were not at work and home, the Fed was printing money so the government could mail them checks so they can go out and buy stuff, even though they weren't working to help produce stuff. And so that is the problem. It is all a demand problem created by the Fed, created by money printing. And the money that the Fed is printing is going to continue to lose value, and that's going to be reflected in rising prices. So you don't want to hold cash. You want to get out of cash, but I don't think you want any U.S. financial assets at all, even stocks or real estate, because I believe that in real terms, they're going to lose a lot of value as America becomes a much poorer nation. So you want to invest internationally. You want to buy foreign assets, foreign stocks, foreign property. You want to own foreign currencies instead of the US dollar. You want to own real money like gold and silver, but you don't want any of that fool's gold. Don't buy any Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. They're just part of the bubble.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Dahn, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Dahn.